Hi friends, this is Caroline from Soul. Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, I am an intuitive and an ascension guide, and I'm here to help you on your journey to consciousness expansion. I've noticed that as we become attached to an outcome, we tend to stop talking about our sovereignty. And I've noticed this in the spiritual community, that as we become attached to new earth manifests only if this person is here, or only through this means, or these people have the right answer and no one else does. As we become attached to an outcome or a label or a route or a method, we actually are losing our sovereignty, and we're losing our rulership or our ownership of ourself, which is why the talk about sovereignty as we become attached to an outcome, they're like inverse, right? So the more attached we become to something happening outside of us, the less freedom, the less sovereignty, the less ownership and rulership of ourselves do we have. So what I want to talk about is, because I'm hearing this from several I'm hearing that there are certain groups that have kind of picked sides and say that this is the way it is happening, or they're encouraging a narrative that puts our power outside of us all the time. And this exists on both sides of the spectrum. Even though when we take a multidimensional or a higher perspective look, we realize that both sides are actually walking hand in hand together, that what we're seeing play out in the mainstream, or what we're seeing play out on the political sphere, is really theatrics. It's really the Burden Circus tactic. And my guidance system told me about the Burden Circus tactic done by the Dark months and months ago. I have a couple of videos that I never posted about it, but basically it's what we're seeing now, where they've restricted us and then they give us distraction. So this is why in the second or the third lockdown, depending on where you were, the entertainment came back on, the professional sports came back on, certain shows came back on, and there were more means of distraction. That's why there were certain shows on well-known kids channels that came back, that people were obsessed with. There's a reason that these things are happening in time. And so if you have yet to understand that the way things are playing out is orchestrated, so as we become attached to the idea of it has to be through this method, or the only way we're getting to New Earth is through this, or the only way the light wins is through this method, is actually getting trapped in that same 3D narrative. It's continuing to allow ourselves to be trapped. That's actually how we give up our sovereignty. And so what I can tell you is the keys of New Earth are not given to us by anybody. We make them ourselves. And so there's nobody coming to save us from the situation we find ourselves in. There's nobody coming. There's no politician coming into office that's going to give us back 100% of our freedoms and improve things for us. There's nobody coming. There's nobody. There's no extraterrestrials that are going to come down and save us. There's nothing. None of this is happening. There's no secret plan, that there's secret people. There are people of light and of goodness working behind the scenes, but they are not going to save us for us. And so that needs to be understood. Yes, there are good, just like there is dark that has infiltrated all of the movements. There is a light that has infiltrated all of the movements as well. So it's not that we are alone. We are 100% supported in our journey. We're 100% supported in creating our means to be a more evolved and a more unified populace and global community. But there's nobody coming to save us. And so if we continue to fall into the trapping methods of waiting for somebody else to fix this for us, we will wait forever. We will never get it back. It will never come back. There is a window of opportunity where we have to fight for our rights, basically, to stand up for what is right and to not settle. And so that requires us taking full ownership of the way we want to live our life. And so my guidance system told me in 2019, they didn't show me the details of the germ or certain things that are going on, but I knew the grocery stores would be different. I knew that we would have limited mobility. I didn't quite understand why. I knew there was a war coming, but they were showing me more of an invasion, but I didn't understand. And they showed me that there was a revolution by the people, won through the actions of the people, and that we will have to take action for this to happen. They didn't show me some leader, some politician. They didn't show me somebody coming up and creating this movement. No, it was by the people. And so what will be asked of us at some point in time is to take full ownership for the way we want to live our lives. And so the way the revolution, the way New Earth, the way the Great Awakening happens, the way this happens is by 100 million people, hundreds of millions of people all around the world standing up and saying that we don't consent. We don't consent to psychological abuse. We don't consent to living like prisoners. We don't consent to a lower quality of life. We don't consent to being fed data that doesn't make sense. We don't consent to having non-transparent policies. We don't consent to having to choose the bad one or the less bad one. This shouldn't even be an option, but we've allowed ourselves to get to this point. So when we've given up I was listening to my partner was listening to a video, a Dave Chappelle speech, and he was talking about how when we're choosing between better or worse, we've already lost. It's like it's between good or bad. And so when we're just choosing between better or worse, we don't have our values. We don't have our ethics anymore. We're not committed to ourselves. We're not taking ownership of our life. And so we don't have to settle for choosing the lesser of two evils. That doesn't have to be our reality, but we've been conditioned to believe that that's what it is. So the truth is that we have the option to have leadership, to have communities, to have support networks that are not the lesser of two evils, but that are good, that want to do good, and that are here to be public servants and do good into the world. And so I'm just taking a look at my notes here. So the idea of us not taking ownership, what's really interesting about this concept is it's what I'm seeing a lot, and it's what's so so hypnotizing, so mesmerizing by these movements that are saying, and it's on both sides, this isn't just one side or the other, it's on both sides, but these movements, these narratives, these groups, these communities, these ideologies that are saying like, wait, someone else is going to come in and do it, somebody's doing it, you don't need to step up, like somebody is taking care of this. What's so interesting about these narratives is if you look at it from an energetic standpoint, I was just talking with a mentor about this yesterday. When you don't take ownership of your life or your energy or your body, what you do is you make space for something else to come in and take ownership. And so this is how we make space for things like attachments or entities or beings to come into our space. So if we're not taking full ownership of ourselves, something else can own us. And so this is so true with these narratives and these movements that say you don't need to take ownership of your life. Someone else is creating this paradise for you. You don't need to do anything. It's so seductive. But if you understand this is just coming to me now. That is the dark. That is a false light agenda. That's exactly what, I don't have a better analogy, but that's exactly what like deals with the devils are, is that we give you all of this stuff. We give you all of these things. Don't look at the fine print and don't ask what you have to exchange. Just look at what you get. You just sit back and enjoy the benefits. We won't ask for anything. Like, this is for you. there's always an exchange. There's an economic term where it's called, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And that's 100% true. No one else is going to create paradise and new earth for us without us having to exchange something. And if they haven't been direct with you with what they're asking for in exchange, it's probably you. It's like what they talked about in the social media companies. If something is for free and they're not charging you, you are the product. They're consuming your data. They're consuming your energy. They're eating up you, basically. So if you're not paying for something, if you're not exchanging energy, what they're taking without you knowing, without you reading the fine print, is they're taking you. They're taking your energy. They're taking your power. And so it's the same thing with these narratives, these movements, these ideologies that are saying that something outside of you will create the paradise for you. You don't need to lift a finger. What are you exchanging? There's no such thing as a free lunch. So what is in the fine print that you're not reading? And who is it that is willing to do this for you? So I think it's really important to notice that, because I got swept up in that thing, in that narrative at different points in my life as well, where it's like, yes, somebody is coming in and doing this, and it's so seductive because we don't want to take ownership of ourselves. It's scary. It's equally the most scary and the most liberating thing you'll do is to take full ownership of yourself. It's scary because it means you're responsible for all of your life. It means you're responsible for the way you've betrayed yourself day after day. It means you're responsible for the day-to-day habits. It means you're responsible for your weight and for your relationships. It means you're responsible for the way you show up in the world. You're responsible for the good and the bad, but equally liberating. If you're fully responsible, you also have all of the keys and the tools and the possibility. You have the limitless potential to go wherever you want to do, because you are 100% responsible. And so, like I said, it's equally the most liberating and the most terrifying thing you'll do is take full responsibility of yourself. And so it's so seductive. It's so hypnotizing, so mesmerizing to be confronted with this idea of someone else would do it for us. But what I want to remind you is that spiritual immaturity, and not just spiritual, but like psychological, emotional, everything. That's how childs think. That's how children think, is that someone else will come in and do it for us. I don't need to put myself in bed because mom will pick me up off the couch and put myself in the bed. I don't need to do these things because someone else will do this. And that's a sign of spiritual immaturity, is that someone else will come in and do this for us. And that's us getting stuck in the 3D. And so one thing that's part of this orchestrated like dark plan, this like attempted planetary takeover. I mean, it sounds so dramatic, but that is what's happening. And I'm doing better of not babying people, because I tend to make my messages more mild, so it's not so shocking to people. But to get you out of spiritual maturity, I can't do that either. It doesn't serve anybody to baby the message. So what's part of this orchestrated dark plan, and what we're seeing with a lot of the narration, that's why it's the mainstream narration, the movies, the entertainment is very fear focused, because it keeps you spiritually like locked down. It keeps a lid on how far you can grow, because fear puts you into the survival mode. So if you think about the 7 chakras on the body, the bottom 3 are survival, and that's where the fear will live. Fear doesn't really live up in your higher chakras as much. It lives in the base chakras, because that's about your survival, your primal instincts, physical safety, those types of things, scarcity. All of that is in the lower chakras, which are fear. So we can't really move that energy up into our higher states of consciousness. So fear is a tool to decrease the spiritual evolution. And so that's what the real battle is here. The dark orchestrated plan is to actually keep the global consciousness from expanding and evolving, because once we've reached a certain level of expansion and evolution, they can't come in. Those tools don't work anymore. Once you've reached a certain state of ownership, self-sovereignty, liberation, and awareness, you can't unknow something. So you can't go back. Like, you can't be put back in the box, let's say. It's like Pandora's box, but in the good way. So where once the collective consciousness expands so much, it can't be put back in. So they're in a race for time. And this is what I was talking to my partner about last night, is they're in a difficult situation, the dark, because we're very much a frog in a boiling pot of water. So if you can think of humanity as a frog, and we're in a pot of water that is slowly boiling. So if you turn the pot up slowly, the frog will not realize, and it will boil to death. If you turn it up quickly, it will realize, because the heat temperature will go up so fast and it will jump out. So they're in a position where as they turn the temperature up, more people realize what's going on because it's too high for some people already. So the faster they do it, the more people wake up. And if they do it too slow, they'll run out of time because people are waking up anyways. It's just the time, it's the era, it's the fact that we've already reached a certain critical mass, and so people are just waking up by because the collective consciousness is there, and because of Mother Earth is evolving, and that's a whole thing. But basically the frequencies are rising on the earth, and so people are waking up either way. And so if they turn it up too fast, more people will wake up. But if they don't turn it up too fast, more people will wake up. So they're kind of in a checkmate. The thing is this is happening, and it's great to be aware of this and to do this work in your home. But if we don't take action, if this doesn't manifest into our physical world, because we are still in a 3D world, if this doesn't manifest into our everyday actions, if this doesn't manifest in businesses opening because they think that's right to do, if this doesn't manifest in people stopping to wear certain things to wear certain garments that don't serve them, that have no scientific data that backs them, that don't have any logical reasoning that back them, if they don't stop behaving in these fear-based or controlled ways, if this doesn't trickle down into our 3D actions, then the pot will boil over. That will be that. So this has to, yes, the awareness and the consciousness, and sharing information online, like all of that is great. But if you're doing this stuff, if your mindset doesn't match your actions tell everything. So the way you're acting is more important. So if you're still acting in a fear-based way, like, oh, I'm afraid to do that because I don't want my friends to reject me, like, oh, I'm afraid to do this because I might get in trouble. That's the way we've really been conditioned, is we've been, like you train an animal, they become afraid of not getting the reward, and they become afraid of getting the punishment when they do something wrong. And so we've been conditioned the same way, where you're afraid of not getting the reward, and you're afraid of getting the punishment if you do something wrong, even if it goes against what you believe to be right in your heart. And so if this doesn't trickle down into our actions, then we could lose the battle, and then we would be enslaved forever. And so we have to, I'm not proposing anything that is outside of our constitutional or God-given rights, but the people have to stand up. That's the only way we're getting to New Earth. The people have to stand up, and the people is you and me and our friends and our family and our community and your neighbors, and that's the people. It's not politicians. There's probably a handful, like your local government is probably a good resource in that, but it's not going to be the system as we know it. So you can't go to the place that made you sick to get you medicine. So I don't know how we can expect the system that has proven over and over again with their actions that these things are not happening for our highest good, that things are not, their actions do not prove that they are in alignment with being public servants, or that they are serving our interests wholly and not the people that are donating to them or providing the money or whatever deals they have made that are behind the scenes. This system has continued to show that the people are not the priority. And so we cannot go to the system that we have for our medicine. We cannot expect it to heal us when its interests have clearly shown through action and history and patterns that they don't have our best interest in mind. So we can't go to the place we got sick for our medicine. So it will take the people taking actions in whatever that means to you. So for people that have small businesses, it is staying open. It is doing what you think is right. It is serving people in the way that you think is right and in aligned with your values. So it is those small actions. It's supporting your local businesses. It's supporting your local produce places. It's supporting your local farmers market. Like it's stopping to support the companies that don't have our best interest in mind. So we have to stop. You have power. You have the power. Otherwise, they wouldn't be trying to control you. If you had no power, this psychological warfare, the spiritual warfare wouldn't even be in place. They would have already won. They wouldn't be trying to convince you so heavily of things if you didn't have any power. They're trying to get you to close your own jail door yourself. And so if you didn't have the power to still open that door, they wouldn't even be doing all of these methods. So you have the power, and this includes your actions. This includes the way you spend your time, what you do. This includes taking your attention, your energy out of the places that you know are not good. So stop supporting the companies and the oligarchy, the techocracy, the large tech companies that clearly don't have your best interest in mind and actually have been violating your rights for years and are just now kind of making it obvious. So once again, like I said, go back and look at How the Dark Gets Your Consent video, because it explains how you're giving your power up to this dark plan through your willful ignorance. So if you choose not to educate yourself about how these tech companies are using your data, you're choosing to say, yes, I give my power to you because I don't want to be aware. I don't want to have awareness. Or if you choose to not look up where your meat is processed and where your meat comes from, you're saying like, yes, I'll take lower quality meat and nutrition. If you choose not to do research on what certain medical therapies do to the body or what their ingredients are, or if you choose not to look up the laws that actually protect companies that give shots and they have no legal liability if things go wrong, if you choose not to look into this, you're choosing to give up your power. You're choosing to consent to the dark plan. And so just take responsibility for that. Just know that that's what you're doing and just be like, yep, that's fine. I'm okay with the negatively polarized timeline. I'm okay to be a slave for my life, because that is what you're saying. And if you're not, then take responsibility, take full ownership, and don't make that space for something else to come in and take ownership of you. So if we don't take ownership of our habits, our beliefs, our thoughts, our actions, what we do, the way we spend our time, anything else can take ownership of you. It's like when you go on social media and suddenly you get lost and you're scrolling, you're not taking ownership of your attention. You're not taking ownership or valuing your energy. And so that thing, that organization is taking ownership of you. That's why you're addicted. That's why you can't stop scrolling. Like they have just like taking control of your energy, your emotions, your whole psychology, your power is gone. Boom. And so if you're not taking ownership of your power, something else will. And that's really what we're seeing here. So this new earth is in our grasp. We're so close. Like we're so close to this tipping point, and other countries are starting to show up. Other countries are starting to wake up. And so I hope that the United States will start asking questions, because I will only live as a free and sovereign being. And I'm 100% committed to this, to the point that I am prepared to adjust my lifestyle to honor that value. And so if you go back to my video, The Trinity of Messages, I talk about how the messages I've been getting from my guidance, one of the main one was, you may have to give up your vices to honor your values. And this is going to be especially true moving forward. You can't add to a full cup. So that was the other message. So thinking about what belief systems and what limiting beliefs or what power dynamics you need to let go of to be a free being. And then the last one is, don't forget your mission. And our mission here is to live as free and sovereign beings and to make a beautiful world for ourselves and for the people around us. Our mission is not to live as slaves worried about money or finances or all of these things. And if we don't wake up, if we don't take action, that is a possibility. So I have zero doubts in my mind that the light wins, but it's not over. No one is going to take the steps for us. It's like I can see the path, I can see the end of the path, but if we don't take the steps to get there, if people don't share these types of messages, if you don't have the awareness that you have to take the steps, then it would be difficult. So obviously nothing is set in stone until it happens. But no, we're on the path to get there, but the people have to keep waking up. Like there's still a ways to go. So that's it. So it's time to take ownership of ourselves, of our lives, of the quality of our lives, of what we want to see in the world, of what we want to see in our communities. And if there's a change that you're looking for, stop waiting for someone else to do it. how can you start making that happen? And so take ownership of your life, take ownership of your world, take ownership of the quality of your life, because that is within your grasp, and you are not doomed or sentenced, or there's nothing outside of you that determines the quality of your life. You do every single day with your actions and your habits and your beliefs and your thoughts. So let's do it. New Earth, the keys of New Earth are in our hands. No one is giving them to us. We are making them ourselves. And I'm ready, everybody. So I'm here to support you. I have several resources. They'll play after this, but I have several one-on-one services, as well as an online membership program, or join my newsletter. Every week I post a weekly energy update for the members, and also lots of fun resources, sometimes to other intuitives, sometimes to other astrologers, sometimes to what's going on, sometimes to books and movies. So sign up for that, and I will be with you so soon. Thank you so much for joining me. Once again, this is Caroline from Carousel.